I'm going to admit, when I saw the trailers for Vengeance, I thought, it could be a cute little romp or it could be a real big dud. And guys, boy, oh boy, we found something here. So, Vengeance is a story about a guy who does podcasts and writes for publications in New York, and he wants to do a big story, something that'll speak on culture and blah, blah, blah. He wants to do something significant. But he kind of gets pulled into this situation where somebody he'd just been hooking up with has passed away, and her family thinks that he was a more prevalent part in her life than he obviously thought. So he flies out to this funeral and kind of gets wrapped into maybe this wasn't accidental death after all, and maybe it was murder. And yeah, just for the premise, I mean, I was kind of like, okay, this could go some interesting places. This could be really fun, and it is kind of I won't say quite a dark comedy. Yes, this is a comedy, but it does really good stuff with mystery and suspense and just detective work. So that it balances all that fairly well, and it kind of shocked me how well it was done. I think from the get-go, this is written, directed, and starring B.J. Novak. A lot of people will be familiar with him from his role as Ryan on The Office, and I'll admit, it was hard at times to watch this movie because, obviously, being the main character, B.J. Novak's character, Ben, I couldn't help but see Ryan Howard from The Office, almost every scene, but he plays it in such a way that you really gravitate towards this guy who is just kind of genuinely looking for this story. Maybe at times he can be cold, but he's looking for the facts, and that's what you should do as a journalist. And what he's doing in putting together is he wants to find this story, but he's thinking about things a little more logically and less about his gut. It's more about what he actually sees and what is being presented to him evidence-wise. And in those terms, that makes that character really interesting and really fascinating, and BJ does a really good job at that. But then there's this cast of characters that he meets around him when he goes down to Texas that are absolutely phenomenal. Like, you have Boyd Holbrook, who plays the girl's brother, who is pretty much teaming up with BJ Novak for most of this. And he was a lot of fun. I don't think he got as much screen time as I expected, but whenever he's on screen, he kind of puts a smile on your face and he kind of tugs at your heartstrings a little bit. He's just like a nice, fun goofball that, is the protective big brother. And I think he does a real good job of that. But to me, the standout, totally shocking me, was Ashton Kutcher in this. He comes in as a music producer in this small town, and he just crushes every scene he's in. He is given some of the juiciest, most thought-provoking dialogue and character perspective that I think I've ever seen, at least maybe not ever, but like in a long time. And he just absolutely nails some of these long explanations, and I won't call them monologues, but as he's describing life and situations in that town to BJ Novak, who's interviewing him, he just nails these long bits of exposition and backstory that I just was floored by. He really nailed this character down, and you really don't think there's much to it, and there's not, but there is in some of the perspective he's got, which I think really rounds his character out in the limited amount of screen time he gets. So yeah, great cast and a lot of fun there. But I do want to go back to the writing, and the writing by BJ Novak is sharp. I think a lot of the stuff he's got to say is poignant and really well done. I'm not saying it is a perfect or flawless script. There are some issues kind of towards the kind of transition between the second and third act that I was like, okay, we're kind of in this weird state where it's like, we know where we need to go, but we have to have some sort of conflict here. And so that has to go down. And we knew it was inevitable. But that's where it kind of slowed down. And I won't say it got messy, but that's kind of where I started to feel things kind of wobble a little bit. But then it tightens back up at the end and finishes strong. So I can't knock it too much. But I think that a lot of the character stuff is really well done and really, fleshed out really well. I think the narrative even takes some turns at a couple points. I'm like, oh wow, what an interesting way to go about this, and developing this character and what certain things, when certain things happen, how that actually affects a character and where that puts their mindset. So, yeah, there's a lot more moving pieces here than I actually anticipated. I just kind of expected a weird, goofy romp, detective story kind of thing. There's quite a bit more to say in this movie than I just thought. I thought it was going to be a basic, like, hey, we're just solving a murder kind of thing. But no, BJ Novak had a lot to say about certain issues and pointed out things about, the small town living compared to big city living, and just some of the discrepancies between different parts of the country and how people are perceived, or how those people perceive other parts of the country. It's just utterly fascinating how all that's kind of woven into this narrative, and I think he nails it pretty well. Like I said, not perfect, but, I still would get up and applaud him for what I thought was a really, really good script. And, I think it was shot real well. I think, the pacing was really well up until about, like I said, that middle or the end of the second act into the third. But, overall, guys, I was absolutely floored with this. I think that, this is a gem. This is something that a lot of people are going to overlook this year. And I'm telling you shouldn't sleep on this movie. It was a lot of fun. It definitely was very interesting and never, ever really got boring, like I said, except for this one little chunk. It just really kept my attention the whole time, and I'm so happy to say that I'm going to be giving this thing an A-. Like, the stuff done in this is so fun and so good that, you should go see this in theaters. I mean, if you have to wait and see it on streaming, then fine. But if you can find this in a theater near you, go and see it. Support this movie. It's a smaller film. So this film is by Blumhouse, and Blumhouse has been crushing it lately. I've been liking a lot of the stuff coming out of Blumhouse. So between Blumhouse and A24, they're really crushing some of these smaller indie movies. And I know, I love giving, a spotlight on some of these smaller films that a lot of people would probably overlook. And this is one, guys, you should not overlook. So, what do you guys think? Have you seen the trailer for Vengeance? Are you interested in this film at all? If so, or if not, leave your comments down below. I'm very curious to know what you think. And, of course, you know what I'm going to say here at the end. If you could hit the like button, the thumbs up. If you could subscribe, hit the bell notifications. It would mean a lot to me, guys. And go see this movie. I'm telling you, it's a good one, and I don't think you'd be disappointed. And until next time, guys, I'll be seeing you.